Hello everybody and welcome back to another grammar lesson. Grammar is kind of the final boss of learning English and getting your final score. I have always told my students that grammar range and accuracy will be like your final stage and final thing to tackle when it comes to your preparation. And we're going to discuss it here as our last step of learning. In this lesson, I'm going to tell you what kind of grammar you're going to focus on because we don't have a lot of time, as we established already. We talked about it in the vocabulary lesson. So this lack of time forces us to make sure that we're going to focus on things that we only need. I'm going to give you a checklist of a couple of items that we need and what they are and how important they are. And then I will tell you a perfect way to practice them in our next lesson. So let's talk about the checklist first. So just like vocabulary, we have a checklist for grammar too. And I want you to focus on these only, nothing else. The first one are tenses, especially perfect tenses. Look, we use basic tenses like present simple, future simple, past simple. We use them all the time. It's easy. But can we and do we use perfect forms in an efficient way, like past perfect, future perfect? Examiners are looking like an eagle for these things. They see, are you using these tenses? They are a bit difficult to handle, so a lot of people avoid them. But you need to practice them and use them both in your speaking and writing. So make sure you always have perfect forms in your speaking and writing. The next thing on the list are relative clauses. Clauses that are started with which, where, when, what. So these come of real importance, especially in your writing. A lot of times we need to make our sentences much more readable and easier to manage. Do not overdo them because they may make your writing hard to read, but make sure you have them as much as possible. Another structure examiners are really looking for are conditional forms, especially all of those mixed conditionals and conditional type 2 and 3 where people use them rarely. So because they're a little bit difficult. So examiners are listening carefully. They're looking at your writing carefully to make sure you have them or not. So use this checklist and make sure that you use conditional forms as much as possible. Again, I'm not asking you to force them into your writing, but make sure you show the examiner that you know them and you can use them. Modal verbs. Modal verbs have a long list and they have a lot of usages and functions, but we tend to use them a little bit less frequently in our daily speaking. We usually use must, have to, or should, but try to use as much of them as possible and in a correct way with all the natural functions that are available. So modal verbs are another must do on your list. One structure that even I struggle after years of learning English are articles. I still need to double check whether I used articles correctly or not. So I'm sure we all have a lot of loopholes to fill here. So please review articles and make sure that you use them effectively. There is a small difference between American and British way of using articles. Very small, but significant for you guys because you are going to get a score of 7 or higher. And you need to use the English consistently. So the big boy on the list are passive forms. So passive forms show complexity, they show formality, they show they have a lot of impressive use cases, and make sure that you use them whenever, of course, where relevant. We're not going to force them, but we need them. We need them especially when we are writing formally or when we are writing reports, for example. We need a lot of passive structures. So please do use them and do use them effectively. And the last one on the list, which some of you may not have heard, but they fit into the category of complex structures, are inversions. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because it's going to need a lot of time, but it's in the word. Inversions are verb forms that are inverted. So the usual place of subject and verb are inverted. Things like, should you need my help, feel free to contact me. So I didn't say you should. They make your sentence more complex, more formal, but these are great ways for you to impress the examiners, both in your writing and speaking. There might be a little bit difficult to kind of get a hold of, but with practice, everything is possible. So, perfect tenses, relative clauses, conditional forms, modal verbs, articles, passive forms, inversions. The 7 big names that you guys need to improve your knowledge of, and as a result, improve your score. In the next lesson, I'm going to tell you how you can work with them and how you can practice them in the best way possible. But if you have any questions about how to kind of test yourself or how to make sure that you manage your time, for example, some of you may take the test in the next 3 months, so you guys have a lot of time to practice, but some of you may take the test in the next 2 weeks. So reach out to me and ask me, and I will tell you which ones to super focus on to get the best result. But the more of them you can use in your speaking and writing, the better, the higher your chances of a better score. Remember, again, we are focusing on a high score. You guys are advanced and proficient learners of English. You're not just intermediate or beginners. IELTS is for everybody. How you perform defines your score. So, and this is one of the ways that we can improve our score, especially in writing. Grammar range is something that a lot of people ignore, and they suffer the consequences as a result. I know a lot of people, they're getting 9s in listening and reading, but their speaking and writing remains at 6.5 or 7. That's not our plan here. We're going to improve that. We're going to get a high score. This is one of the most effective ways. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about how we can do this in action and practice them in the most effective way. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys in the next lesson.